The Galactic Council had been explicit in their warnings. When Dr. Lena Hartwell submitted her application to study the Velcar species on their homeworld of Thornmore, every superior officer, every xenobiologist, and every seasoned diplomat had told her the same thing. Never approach the cubs. The Velcar were apex predators, massive leonine creatures with crystalline claws that could rend a steel and eyes that glowed with an inner fire. They stood nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder, their bodies covered in scales that shimmered between midnight blue and deep violet. They were formidable warriors, respected throughout the galaxy for their honor and feared for their ferocity. But it was their cubs that posed the greatest danger, or so the Council insisted. Velcar parents were notoriously protective, and any perceived threat to their young would trigger an instinctive, savage response. The last researcher who had accidentally wandered too close to a Velcar nursery had barely escaped with her life, saved only by emergency teleportation. The species had nearly withdrawn from the Galactic Council entirely over the incident. Lena had listened to every warning, nodded at every briefing, and signed every waiver. Then 3 weeks into her research mission, she found herself face to face with a Velcar cub trapped in a collapsed ravine. The cub couldn't have been more than 6 months old, small by Velcar standards, though still the size of an earth lion. Its leg was caught beneath a fallen boulder, and crystalline tears streamed from its luminous golden eyes. The sound it made was heartbreaking, a keening wail that echoed through the canyon. Lena's translator unit buzzed frantically with proximity warnings. Her comm link erupted with the panicked voices of her support team back at base camp. "Dr. Hartwell, retreat immediately. The parent will be nearby. This is a direct order." She muted the comm. The human part of her brain, the logical, trained scientist, knew she should leave. But there was another part, something older and more fundamental, that simply couldn't walk away from a child in pain. It didn't matter that this child had scales instead of skin, or claws instead of fingers. "Hey there, little one," Lena whispered, slowly approaching. "I'm going to help you." The cub, later she would learn his name was Carinu Watchpaw, hissed and swiped at her, but the movement was weak, frightened rather than aggressive. Lena activated her portable grav lift and began working to shift the boulder. It took 20 minutes of careful manipulation, her back screaming in protest, sweat soaking through her environment suit. When the boulder finally rolled free, Carinu scrambled back, favoring his injured leg. Lena pulled a medical scanner from her pack and extended it slowly. "I need to check if anything's broken, sweetheart. I promise I won't hurt you." Perhaps it was her tone, soft and reassuring, the universal language of comfort that transcended species. Perhaps it was exhaustion, but Carinu allowed her to scan his leg and apply a stabilizing brace from her emergency kit. That's when the shadows moved. 3 adult Velcar emerged from the canyon walls, seemingly materializing from the stone itself. The largest, Carinu's mother, Lena realized with cold certainty, was a magnificent creature whose scales rippled with barely contained fury. Her claws extended fully, each one gleaming like a blade forged from starlight. Lena didn't run. She couldn't have outrun them anyway. Instead, she stood slowly, placing herself between the adults and Carinu, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I meant no harm," she said, knowing her translator would convert her words. "Your child was hurt. I only wanted to help." The mother Velcar's growl was a sound that vibrated through Lena's chest, rattling her bones. Death approached on padded feet, and every instinct screamed at her to flee, to fight, to do something. Then Carinu limped forward, placing himself between Lena and his mother. The cub made a series of clicking, chirping sounds, Velcar infant speech that Lena's translator struggled to process. But the meaning was clear enough in his body language. "She helped me. She is safe." The tension held for an eternal moment. Then slowly, the mother's claws retracted. She approached Lena with deliberate steps, and the human fought every impulse to flinch away. The Velcar lowered her massive head, her breath hot against Lena's face, and rumbled something deep and complex. Lena's translator finally caught up. "You bear the scent of fear, but you did not flee. You are small and weak, but you protected my son. This is unexpected behavior from a human." Over the following weeks, something unprecedented occurred. Karina began following Lena during her research expeditions, maintaining a constant vigil at the perimeter of her camp. Other cubs joined him, drawn by curiosity and perhaps by some story the young ones told among themselves about the strange, soft alien who had helped one of their own. The Velkar elders were baffled. Cubs were precious, carefully guarded treasures kept far from outsiders. Yet here they were, choosing to stay near this human female, curling up near her shelter at night, their scales providing warmth and protection. When a territorial dispute brought a rival clan to the research site, ready to challenge the human presence, they found Dr. Lena Hartwell surrounded by a dozen Velkar cubs, with Karinu at the forefront, his juvenile claws extended in clear warning. Behind them, watching with approval, stood the cubs' parents. The rivals retreated without conflict. Word spread quickly across Thornmoor and beyond. The human had done what no other species had accomplished. She had earned the protection of Velkar young not through strength or negotiation, but through something the galaxy had not expected from humanity: simple, fearless compassion. At night, Karinu still kept his position closest to Lena's shelter, his scales glowing faintly in the darkness. The council had been right about one thing. Velkar cubs were dangerous to approach, but they had failed to account for the most dangerous human trait of all: the inability to ignore a child in need, regardless of the consequences. Lena Hartwell had broken every protocol, ignored every warning, and in doing so, had forged a bond that would reshape humanity's relationship with one of the galaxy's most formidable species. All because she had listened to her heart instead of her fear. And Karinu Watchpaw, who would grow to become one of the greatest warriors of his generation, would never forget the small, fragile human who taught him that true strength sometimes looked like gentleness.